I'll show you how to make this autumn-themed wind chime. This is such a fun little project, and I really enjoyed that I was able to incorporate copper into this. I really like using copper in some of my holiday decor, and I enjoy that this is not only a wind chime, but it also adds a little bit of autumn spice to your room. If you want to see more DIYs like this one, let me know in the comments below. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell next to it so you get updates when I post new videos. Follow me on social media at Katrinaosity, check out my podcast at MDXpods.com, and if you enjoyed this video, please click that like button. It really helps my videos get seen.
For this project, you'll need a small wooden cross section, a tiny wooden cross section, a drill with a small drill bit, copper piping, these are about 6 inches long, protective glasses, a wooden knob, twine or hemp cording, a needle with an eye large enough for the cording, and whatever your preferred faux fall foliage is. Begin by drilling the small holes near one end of your copper piping. I suggest that you do this slowly and carefully because you don't want to scratch your piping and you also don't want to put a hole in whatever your work surface is. I recommend that you do one hole all the way through, allow it to score the other side of the piping on the inside, and then hold it up while you drill through the rest of the pipe. This way you're not going to risk drilling into your work surface, and I find that you also have a lot more control holding it in your hand like this to do the second hole than you did when you were just holding the pipe in place and drilling into it. This takes a few seconds for each one, and I recommend that you wear protective eyewear for this step because you don't want to get any shards of metal in your eyes. Also be careful that you don't embed any of this copper shredding into your skin because it can be painful. I also recommend that you flip over that piping once you've done both holes and wiggle that drill bit around in the hole so that it wears down any sharp edges around that hole that you just drilled. You don't want to cut yourself anytime you handle this, just make sure everything is smooth before you start working with these copper pieces. That way you don't get any small cuts and you're not risking getting any of this copper shredding embedded in your skin. You'll want to repeat this entire process with each of your pieces of copper piping. Next, take your wooden knob and drill through the top of it until you get to the pre-drilled hole on the other side. Then position your copper piping around your large wooden coaster to figure out where you want to put all of the pieces. I have copper piping in 2 different sizes, but you can use whatever size you prefer the sound of. And get a feel for where you want to drill the holes for each of these pieces. You're going to have each of these tubes on one string, and the string is going to go through the top of your wooden piece and tie on the top of your wind chime. So you're going to need to drill 2 holes for each of your copper pieces, roughly the same distance from the edge of your coaster. Now I picked this particular piece of wood because it wasn't perfectly round and it has a little bit of character. I recommend that you pre-drill all of these holes just a little bit into one side, making sure that you position them ahead of time, and then hold your wooden piece up on one side to drill the rest of the way through. Again, this way you won't risk drilling into your work surface. Then drill one hole in your small piece. This is going to be the piece at the bottom of your wind chime that catches the wind. Next, measure and cut the pieces of cording to hold each of your chimes onto your wooden piece at the top. I recommend that you cut these in staggered lengths, that way you're not stressing about getting them all the same length or hanging all of your wind chimes the same distance from the top wooden piece. It can be a little bit imperfect and you don't have to stress about anything. I cut each of these pieces about a ½ inch shorter than the previous one, keeping in mind that they were going to be folded over in half and lose half of their length. Next, cut 2 pieces of twine that are also going to be doubled over and serve as the pieces that hold the top of your wind chime onto whatever hook or nail you're going to be hanging it from. Grab the pieces together, forming a loop in the center, and then tie both of those pieces together with an overhand knot so that you have a permanent loop at the top from which you can hang your wind chime. Pull the loop firmly to make sure that knot is completely tightened. Next, remove one of the pieces of cording that is hanging at the bottom so that you're only left with 3. This way it makes it a lot easier to hang this thing level than if you had 4 pieces. Drill one hole through the center of your wooden piece, making sure that it looks like it's roughly in the middle of your pre-drilled holes. Take a short piece of twine, tie a knot in it, and then use that as your measurement to drill 3 holes through your wooden piece. This way you'll have a guide to make sure that these holes are equidistant from the center hole. You can also measure more carefully and make sure that these holes are equidistant from each other, but again, this is imperfect and it doesn't have to be that fancy. Tie a knot where you want that measurement to be to make it a little bit easier, then use that knot as your guide to drill 3 holes. Again, I recommend holding that wooden piece to drill the rest of the way through to protect your work surface. Put all 3 of those ends through the same side of your wooden piece, tying knots in the ends of them. I recommend that you tie 3 or 4 knots in each end. That way you have a nice big knot on the end of that, and it's going to hold the weight of all of those wind chimes that you're going to be adding. Pull them tight to make sure they're not going to slip through once you get some weight on them, and it should look something like this. Next, you're ready to start adding your chimes. Begin with your longest piece of cording, feed it through the bottom of your large wooden piece, and then tie a knot on the top. Again, you may want to double or triple knot each of these pieces, and I recommend that you tie the knot as close to the end of the cording as possible. This way you're going to keep your pre-cut measurements somewhat consistent and not be losing a lot of excess length in the ends of your cords. Once you've tied that knot, make sure that you tug on it a little bit so it's not going to slip through the top of that unexpectedly. Then you can begin adding your leaves. Thread your needle and then stab it through the leaves artfully. You can do this differently with each leaf that you put on. You can use large leaves, small leaves, all different colors. Then thread that through the 2 holes that you drilled into the top of your copper piping. Thread that cording back up through the top of your large wooden piece, tying another knot in the other end of it, and repeat this process for all of your copper pieces. You don't have to put leaves on every single one of these pieces, and make sure that they're spaced out enough that they're not going to be catching on each other. Then thread another piece of cording up through the bottom of that large wooden piece, tie a knot in the top, then add that wooden knob and tie a knot in the cord where you want that knob to sit so that it will reach all of the chimes and have a chance to hit them. Then figure out where you want the bottom piece to catch the wind and how low you want it to hang, and tie it onto the end of that same piece of cording. Pull that knot tight, and that is your finished wind chime. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more projects like this one, let me know in the comments below. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, please click that like button. It really helps my videos get seen.